this warm weather we've been having outside in this spring sure reminds me of summer. And so today we're going to just do a one-day quick drawing of some dandelions. We're going to try to get it to look like the dandelions are blowing in the wind. So what you're going to need today is kind of a long piece of paper. Colored will work best, but if you don't have colored, you can use a different color too. All right, so gather your supplies and let's get started. So I have my long piece of paper and I have some finished examples here. It really doesn't matter what kind of colored paper you use. If you're at home, I sent some home to you. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing with a black marker, crayon, even a black colored pencil would work really great for this. So you choose what you have at home. And to get the white on here, I did use white paint. If you don't have white paint, I'll show you how you can do it with crayons. So what you're going to do first is you're going to get your black drawing material, whatever that happens to be. If it's a crayon, if it's a marker, it doesn't matter. Colored pencil, that would work fine too. And what you're going to do first is you're going to create some grass. And I don't want it to be perfectly straight up and down grass. What I want you to try to do is do what we call a pulled line. So I start at the bottom, and actually what I'm doing is I'm pulling up off of my paper. Sometimes I have short ones, sometimes I have long ones, and it's okay if they overlap. I'm trying to lean it all to going in one direction so that it looks like the wind is gently blowing. Kind of do it real soft. You start off pushing down and then lift up. And you can do it with a crayon, you can do it with a colored pencil, and of course you can do it with markers. So I'm going to do lots of grass down here at the bottom of my paper. It's okay if a couple get a little bit longer. All right, so now that I've got a lot of grass, I could probably go on this part for a long time if I wanted to. That's up to you. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to create at least 3, maybe 4 taller lines. And so I'm going to start down here. 1. You can also start in here if you want. It's okay if they lean a little bit. 2. And let's go with 3 right here. I didn't make them all the same size. It's okay if maybe you want to have one crossing like I did in this one, but this is kind of where the dandelion grows. So when you think about dandelions, when they get to this white fluffy part, this means they're ready. These are actually seeds, and this part of the stem has grown really long at this point, and that's why we drew this line so very long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a circle on the end of each one of these lines, just using my crayon or marker, coloring that in. Sometimes I like to put kind of a little extra thing down here. This is where the flower used to be, and it's kind of just hanging out there. Then for the seeds, what we're going to do is we're going to make some long lines. Not as long as this one, but fairly long, coming out sort of like a sun. You can decide how many of those you want to do. Try to make them similar in size. You don't want to have a bunch of long ones and then have some short ones. At the end of this, I usually do like a little V. Some people do like a little T, that works too. Make sure you do each one. I'm going to have even a little bit of kind of some that have already flown off here. The wind is blowing, and so they may have already before I do the white, I'm going to do some leaves for my dandelions. Now the leaves of a dandelion start at the base of, or at the bottom of the stem. I'm going to make kind of a thick line here. And then I'm going to make kind of a real zigzaggy line on one side, really close together. And each dandelion stem will have at least two, but it usually has a lot more. Thick line. And a nice zigzaggy line. And it doesn't have to look perfect. Maybe I'm going to have a leaf over here from a plant that we can't see. Maybe I'll just have the beginnings of it over here. It just feels empty over here. So I feel like we need to add some in here. This guy needs some too. We probably won't see the whole leaf on this one because it's going off the paper. And it probably runs into this other one. It's okay if they overlap one another. Okay, now that you have all of the black markings on your paper, if you've got paint at home, what I want you to do, and I'm barely going to use any, I'm going to use the tip of my finger. You could also use a cotton swab. Use just a little bit, and I don't want very much, just getting the tiniest amount, and then I'm going to touch that plate so I don't get too much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something called fingerprinting. So I'm going to use my finger, and I'm going to see how many times I can go with my white until it runs out. So I'm trying to think of doing like a circle. I kind of like it a little wispy, as if you've ever looked at dandelions. They're not a solid white. Now, if you are going to do this with, if you don't have the paint and you're at home trying to do this, it's okay if you cover up some of your black a little bit. Trying to just make kind of a circle. I don't want it to get too white. I think that looks perfect. Now, if you're at home and you're doing this with, you could use chalk. So if you have a piece of white sidewalk chalk, you could kind of do the same thing, and you could use your finger to spread that, or you can use a crayon. And what I would do is I would just move in little circles around your dandelion flower. Dandelions, we kind of have a bad reputation as being a weed in our country, but they are really a flower, and the bees in the springtime, it's usually one of the first places that they get to eat from. So it's a food source. So if you have chalk at your house, you can use chalk, and you might have this from sidewalk chalk. And that looks really white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my finger and just kind of brush that over so it kind of softens it and makes it look a little bit more like that. Now you don't want to forget about the ones that were flying in the air, so make sure you get a little white on those as well. And no matter which way you make yours today, whether it's with the paint, whether it is with the chalk, or if you're using a white crayon, that will work wonderfully too. So I hope you've had fun making this a short, simple, sweet spring art project with me today. I can't wait to see what yours looks like when you're finished. Remember to take a picture, put it on Artsonia, and if you're at home, put it on Seesaw. All right, have a great rest of the day, and until next time, goodbye.